All right, so in this video or in this lecture, I'm going to show you guys how to do the mortgage survey. I'm in Blackboard, and I just wanted to show you what it looks like in here because there is the project, the subdivision plat. You guys have already been working on that. This is the mortgage survey. There's a separate one on publishing the drawing. So this is the one where it tells you how to set up your layouts. It'll tell you about your viewports, viewport scales. It'll tell you about that table that you have to put in for your curb, the curb data table. It'll have all the information in there. So with all of these so far, this is just drawing in model space. And it's this last one that's going to be publishing the drawings. So I'm going to click on the mortgage survey, and we're just going to come through here. There are a few things that you're going to have to add. So we're going to add a few layers for the house, the driveway, and the trees. We are going to be using a text style named Bold Italic. I think you guys have already created one called Bold, but not Bold Italic. So that'll be a new text style that you can create. The annotation scale for this project is going to be 1 to 20. So whereas we used 1 to 100 before, 1 to 20 now. This is a picture of what it looks like. What I recommend is if you want to, since the directions are right here, if you right click on a layout tab, there's an option here for duplicate, and it just picks up right where you left off. And that way you can have one that you can right click, rotate clockwise, and then you've got it close or the right way, and you can zoom into it. I just think this kind of helps. If I were you, I would do this, but you don't have to. Anyway, that way you can read the directions here and then click over here and have kind of a zoomed in close up of what you're drawing. But basically what we're drawing here is, if you look at your existing subdivision, this is, if we come over here, this is lot 5. So we're taking lot 5 that you guys have already drawn as a part of your subdivision, and we are just going to detail it out. So the difference here, though, that I want to point out, this subdivision was the initial subdivision, the initial plan for the subdivision, where they laid out where the roads are, they laid out where the property lines are. Nothing had been built at this point. This was just the layout of the subdivision. What a mortgage survey is, anytime you buy a house, your mortgage company requires that you hire a survey company, and they go out and they check all the boundaries. They check for the pins, the borders of your property. They survey everything, the trees, the house, any structures that's on the land. And when they do that, like in this case, this has already been a house, somebody's now selling it, so the new buyer's got a mortgage survey that they're getting done. But when they do that, the mortgage company is pretty much looking for legal problems that might happen, like if a neighbor built something onto your property, or if it's not up to code, or something like that. If you have structures that weren't supposed to be there and it's going to turn into a legal issue, the mortgage company needs to know about that. So, and we hear about this all the time. I've had students tell me about people who've built fences like 3 feet into their yard, or something. They might come in here and there's a structure that's in the PUE. So if that happens, that, it's fine until the city comes out and needs to do something to your utilities, and then they're just going to rip up your structure because it's not supposed to be within that PUE. So that's what the mortgage survey is. And coming back here, you're going to create a few more dimension styles. You guys are going to end up with a ton of dimension styles in this project. You've already got what? Subdivision 0.00, subdivision PUE. You're going to add some more in here. So we've got mortgage. We're going to start with standard, make all these changes. You've got mortgage with 1 decimal place, starting with mortgage. You've got mortgage with 2 decimal place, starting with mortgage. You've got mortgage with arrows. You have got mortgage with arrows with 1 decimal place, and you've got mortgage with 2 decimal places with arrows. So you're creating a bunch of new dimension styles. And so when you look at this, though, look at it. Some of them do have arrows. Some of them don't have arrows. Some of them have 1 decimal place. Some of them have no decimal places. You want to make sure and match whatever the sketch looks like, whatever the style is. So we're taking this. We're going to call this our sketch. and we're going to make it look like this. So if it's, suppressing an dimension line on this side, but not the other side, you're going to have to go into properties and uncheck the box where, it says suppress dimension lines. So once you're done setting up your drawing, doing all the layers and the dimension styles, the next thing you're going to do is just start drawing the property. And so it's telling you generally where to start, and you're going to come through here. You're going to draw using your bearings, using the course, and then we're going to draw an arc here. And I'm going to show you, it tells you to do the cul-de-sac with the arc command. You'd start end radius. What I'm actually going to do is come over here and draw this guy, and let's see if I can go half page to get it all onto the screen at once. There we go. So I'm going to draw this just starting over here. I need to make sure that my north arrow is facing north. So that's an important thing when you get started on this, because we've made that named view where we rotated our property so that it's straight up and down. But in order to draw bearings, we actually have to have north arrow straight up. So your property is going to be crooked again, like you see here, north arrow straight up. And then I'll just come over here and I'm going to, if I can find my layers, we're going to set your property line layer current. And we're just going to start drawing a line just the way we did before. So I'm going to turn off my dynamic. I'm going to start drawing a line at 118.6, angle north 54D, 22 feet east, at 94.93, angle south 63D, 48 east, at 100.11, angle south 26D, 10 west. One more, 131.56, angle north 79D, All right, so I've got just the overall shape of the straight lines here. Now what I'm going to do, remember my cul-de-sac has a radius of 50. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw an arc, and it says start, end, radius. Those are the three things I know. I know where it's going to start, know where it's going to end, and I know that it's got a radius of 50. So start, end, 50. So I've just drawn out my property. One thing you want to do, even though it is the same thing that we have over here, I do want you to notice, though, it says 118.6, 118.9. Let's see, 94.93, 95. 100 over here, it's 100.11. 131.67, it's 131.56. So remember when we talked about when we were drawing those lines and they didn't touch the cul-de-sac perfectly, some came a little bit too short and some were a little bit too long. And we talked about when land surveyors go out there, no two people are going to stand in exactly the right spot. It's just absolutely impossible. So when we drew this subdivision, this was an ideal, right? We said 95, 160. We were telling them how to measure out the property. Now that property has been measured out, somebody's been living there, a new person's buying it, a whole new survey team comes out, probably a different company even, and they're going to stand in different places. So as long as it's within that allowable variance, then it's okay. So I say all of that just to let you know, do not copy this and say, oh, sweet, I can save myself 3 minutes worth of time and copy that and start working over here. We're not going to copy it. We're going to redraw it. And I think I told you this last week, whenever you get a mortgage survey, our old civil instructor used to say, if you ever get a mortgage survey done, pull it from the city the existing one and compare them. And if they look the same, if they have the same dimensions, they totally charged you for one and did not come out and do it. It's impossible for two to have the same dimensions. I think, didn't we talk about that last time? So this is a good example of that. So now that we've got this guy right here, what we need to do is come over. I've already drawn it, but we're going to come over here and draw out the house. Now, drawing this house, if you notice, you're missing some dimensions. So over here, oops, it won't let me highlight it. Do you notice this right next to the AC? I'm missing a dimension. And then over here by the patio, I'm missing another dimension. Those dimensions, it's totally normal that those dimensions are missing. And I think, did we talk about that last week as well, that they leave off dimensions? Because they didn't build the house. They just want to cover their butts. They didn't build the house. They don't have a pony in that race. So what they do is just leave off that dimension. So look, you can add up 46.4 plus 15.6, subtract 9.5, subtract 15.8, subtract 21.7. Whatever's left over is the length of this. Same goes over here. You can add up 23.8, 13.2, and 13, subtract 13, 29.1. That leaves you whatever this is. I'll tell you right now, nothing about this house is symmetrical. And a lot of people try to say, well, this is 15.6 and that looks about the same. I'm telling you right now, it's not 15.6. You're going to have to add it up and figure out what that is. And this looks like 13. Well, maybe that's 13.2. It's not 13. So you guys are each going to have to add it up. If you add correctly, your house will close on itself. You know, when you're doing a polyline, it'll close right back on the end point or the starting point. So another thing is this porch. These dimensions are also part of the house. So it's 9.5 plus 15.8. And some people mistake that when they're drawing it. They try to make it 15.8 and the 9.5 is just inside of that. But those are real dimensions there. So I've got this house drawn. Oh, I'm on the crooked one. So I've got that, got this taken care of. Offset the arc 10 feet to create the curb line. So we can come back at over here. You're going to offset 10. And it'll just walk you through. Lengthen, use the lengthen command to lengthen each property line 25 feet shown in figure 2. So when we look back over here, it's these guys right here. This comes out 25 feet. This comes out 25 feet. Let's get an easier view of it. One thing I want you to notice though, in lot 10, see how lot 10 comes out this way? And this line right here is parallel to the top of lot 10. If you use your lengthen command on this, it's going to lengthen out this way, and lot 10 is going to be wrong. So be careful about that. That's a real common mistake that people make. Set the house layer, draw the house. And then when it comes to this part, I wanted to show you what this is talking about. Super easy to get mixed up here and not understand what that note is. We're trying to draw this patio. And if you look at the patio, it says it's a 25-foot diameter patio. But that sounds easier said than done. So you would think, oh, okay, well, how we used to do this, well, we would draw a circle with a diameter of 25 feet, and then we would try to do tangent and get it lined up perfectly, and it never really came out right. I had a student who discovered this one time, and it's been awesome. But if you take the radius of 25 feet, so that's 12.5 feet, it's kind of weird. I'm going to do it the wrong way, and then I'm going to show you. So we have start, end, radius, start, and if I type in 12.5 feet for the radius, look what it does. It kind of bulges in a weird way. Like that's not really what the patio looks like. This student discovered, and I still don't fully understand why this is, but start in radius, if you type negative 12.5 feet. I think what it is it bulges, it makes this come here instead of that side. It puts the center of that radius on the other side. And so it bulges out from there. Does that make sense? Like if you had this as the chord, one puts it, 12.5 feet over here. The other one puts it 12.5 feet out, according to those 2 points. So that's what you're going to do for this guy right here. That's what this picture is trying to show you. Now this picture is super, super confusing looking. I drew it. I'm even telling you it's confusing looking. But what we're doing is we're trying to figure out where this house goes. And if you notice in here, when I've got this thing drawn, I know that this corner is 31.3. I know that one's 10.3. So I know exactly where that corner is going. I know this corner is at 32.6, but do you see how it's kind of at an angle? So it's getting that house to kind of go to that angle right there. And so we're going to use a command called align, A-L-I-G-N, align, not a line, but align. And to figure out where this goes. So I'm going to come over here. We're going to look 31.3. I'm going to offset 31.3 from here to here, 10.3 from the bottom up. You can even, if you want, go ahead and move this over. Notice I've already got the driveway and everything drawn when I do this. You can move this house to there if you want, or you can do it in a minute, however you guys decide to do it. But so that's definitely where that corner of the house is going. The next thing I need to do is offset 32.6 from here to here. I know this corner of the house needs to touch that line, but it's getting it. I don't have another dimension in there. I don't have anything specific like an intersection to snap to. So what we're going to do is draw a circle starting here, ending here. And the picture, if you look over here, is showing that circle. So start point, end point for that circle. Now what we know is if that circle stays put, if this is the kind of the base point of that rotate command, if this corner stays put, this corner right here will travel along that circle. It'll always stay, that corner will always be on that circle because that's the radius. So now what we know is if I were to align this house, I know this corner can actually go perfectly to that intersection. I can see exactly where that corner is going to touch that offset of 32.6. So now I'm going to align, select the objects. Let's go this way. That driveway too. With the align command, I've selected all my objects. I pressed enter. It wants the first source point. The first source point is that first corner of the house. It wants its destination point. It is at its destination. So I'm going to press enter or just click there. Now it wants the next source point. So the source point number 2 is this corner of the house. Its destination is this intersection. It says, hey, can I have a third source point? Third source point is when we're dealing with a third axis, like in 3D, and we don't have a third axis here. So we're just going to press enter. We don't have a third source point. And it says, do you want to scale the objects? I don't want to scale the objects. I just want to rotate it perfectly at the same scale that I drew it at. So I'm going to say no. And look, my house just went and touched that corner. So that's how you can do this. There is a YouTube video of me just doing that align command. So all of these little things that I'm showing you here, they're shorter videos that you can watch of me doing just that one command. All right, so now that we've drawn this, now we need to do the shed. The shed is the exact same thing. So I'm going to move this shed a little bit closer. We're going to do the same thing with that shed. So I'm going to come over here and look and see. We've got 18.9 from here to here, 10.3 from here to here, 32.4 from here to here. That defines this corner of the shed. I've got one more, 28.3 from here to here. It's barely rotated at all, but do you see where that corner is supposed to be on that line? We're going to do the exact same thing that we did before. So I'm going to draw a circle from here to here. And I'm going to align, grab my little shed, source point, destination. Source point, this is where it gets tricky. That intersection is the destination. No third, don't scale. And he just went and found where he's supposed to go. So that's getting all of this aligned. The next thing we need to do is work on our trees. And that's really the only other, other than that, it's just dimensioning this thing. But the next thing that we need to do is work on our trees. And I want to show you a couple of things about trees. We have talked about, if we go to view, tool palettes, architectural, do you remember we had some trees that we could bring in? They're crazy huge, by the way. You're definitely going to have to scale these down. But if you were to select one of these trees, remember there's any of the plan views would work. But I'm not a super big fan of those. I think they're kind of ugly. So what I want to show you is how you can make your own trees, which I think this is one of the funnest parts of the semester. Like, how often do you get to make trees? Unless you're God, never. So we're gonna, let's just draw, I'll do a really simple one first. I'm gonna turn on my nearest OSNAP for this. Really what I'm doing, I'm just gonna draw a branch with twigs, however you want it to look. Now I'm gonna do my array command, polar array. And you can tell it however many items you want. So I could have 12 branches to my tree. I could have 18 branches to my tree. It's super cool. Just make your own tree. Make one branch and then array it. And then it's your own personal tree. And it's a lot better looking than any of those little blocks that you're going to find. Yes, sir.
But what can you tell, what kind of trees you can tell by the design, of course?
Well, in this is not landscape architecture. So nobody's trying to plant trees according to your layout. You're just representing trees. And if you look back in here, where'd it go? If you look back in here, it's labeled 2 12-inch pecans. And by the way, this whole thing right here, it says there's 2 trees, right? When you're flying over and 2 trees are right next to each other, you just see one canopy. That's why you only see one tree right there. The note tells you there's 2 12-inch pecans, and 12 inches is the diameter of the trunk. It's not the size of that canopy. So that's a 6-inch cedar, an 8-inch sycamore, 6-inch elm, 4-inch elm. So it's just labeling. You'll see the labels for the kind of trees that there are. Other types, I've seen other types of trees. This always reminds me of Batman. Array. That one's pretty cool. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do. I've had people get super, super creative with just fabulous trees. Swirl trees. I mean, hello, swirls. It's amazing. Anyway, but make your own trees. I really encourage you guys to do that. You don't have to. If you don't want to, you can use those blocks. If you would rather use the blocks that are in that tool palette, that's fine. What I do not want to see is this. You know, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want, let's even see. Some people are like, oh, but this, I don't care what hatch pattern you put in there. It looks like crap and I don't want to see it. And I've had some people like, oh, that's not a hatch, see? Just because you deleted the circle does not mean it's still not a hatch. So it looks like tire marks, doesn't it? It looks like CSI's come out here and taken a sample of the getaway car. Anyway, so I wanted to show you guys that. Just make your own trees here. Another thing that I really want to stress to you guys, and it's kind of weird if you haven't worked with this yet, the offset command does not work the way you think it works in here, especially when it comes to this sycamore, getting it from here to here, and this pecan, getting it from here to here. The reason for that is this distance, 18.7, if I take this line and I offset it, this line right here is not perpendicular to it. Because it's at an angle, you're going to get a skewed dimension there. And so I want to show you how to fix that. I want to show you what happens, and then I want to show you how to fix it. So I'll come over here, make that take half of my screen, and I want to show you if I do the offset command and I type in 18.7 and I click from here to here, if I come over here and measure the distance, line from here to here, that's not 18.7. It really is 18.7. If I were to do from here, whoops, linear. Oh, aligned, Ashley. Well, 18.69, I don't even know why that is. But it really is an 18.7. If I go to perpendicular, there we go. There's my 18.7. If it does a perpendicular offset, but because this is at an angle, it's not going to work like that. So I want you to be careful of that with these offsets. And you've probably seen me do a lot of different circles here. I do a lot of circles in Civil. If you do a circle, again, I think that's the best way to measure this out, 18.7 radius. When I come over here and dimension from the center to there, that's 18.7. So I'm a huge fan of using the circles to get your dimensions instead of the offsets when you know that it's not perpendicular. Yes, sir?
I think you did your curve a little the opposite way.
My curb?
Curve line, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was 10 feet out and I took mine 10 feet in. I erased it though. But you'll bring in that building line is 25 feet in. So the curb goes out, the building line goes in. So now that you've got this 18.7, I'm going to go back to my circle command and I'm going to draw a 20-foot diameter circle and I'm going to offset 20 feet. So here to here, that is where the center of my tree is going to go. It's the intersection of that circle and that offset. And that way, when I come over here and do my dimension, I know it's 20 feet. Of course, don't have giant trees, by the way. If you drew it too big, like I did, scale it down a little bit. What I don't want to see, I'm smart enough to get the people who hand in projects, and I really, really did have somebody do this once. She put giant trees all over the whole drawing, so I couldn't see the dimensions or anything else. That's totally something that my daughter would do in school. We're adults now. I totally get that. I see through you. Anyway, so there's that. Another thing to kind of be aware of when you're looking at this is 11 feet. Again, draw a circle here. It's easier. Draw a circle from here to here, 11 feet, and then 23 feet out that way to get to the center of that tree. It's an additional 22 feet. So that 22 feet is not including the 11. It's an additional 22 feet out. You've got a 5 foot here, a 5 foot there, 4 foot sidewalk. So these are all just offsets when you're drawing out that house. The rest of this is just, you're really going to use the align dimension. And the rest of this is just busy work. It's just like it was on the subdivision, just text and dimensions and filling it out. When you get ready, this is what your subdivision plat is going to look like. And the plot instructions, those separate instructions for plotting, but it'll show you. So you've got one viewport that's going to have your subdivision. You've got another viewport that is going to zoom into your cul-de-sac. When it zooms into that cul-de-sac, it's going to have a 1 to 40 inch scale, or 1 inch to 40 feet scale. And if you look down here, you can see I'm at 1 to 40. And what I'm going to have to do is take all of these objects that are inside, just the ones I want to see. And remember how we added a scale? I'll show you how we added a scale. But these guys right here, you're going to add that scale to them. So if you highlight, you can do all of them at the same time. So take all of these curve numbers. You're also going to take all of these blocks. This is one of the reasons we made them annotative. You're going to take this and this and this and this and this. All of that should be annotative. I don't need any of these other property dimensions, just the stuff right around the cul-de-sac. we'll go to properties and let's look for align dimension. We're going to add in 1 to 40. We're going to look at our radial dimension. Mine's already there, but text, multi-liters, everything, you're going to add in that 1 to 40 so that it shows up in both viewports. We don't want to use this thing right here. Remember how I showed you this guy? And if you turn it on and we set something to 1 to 40, it takes everything and puts it at that 1 to 40. That seems like that would be the quick and easy way to do it, but now everything has 1 to 40. And it's not that big a deal, but we don't want AutoCAD sitting there calculating, every single dimension so that it'll show up. Plus, we don't want to see block B. We don't want to see, we don't want to see all that stuff. Another thing that we want to look at is when we're looking at this, I'm going to actually remove that 1 to 40. Okay, so when we're looking at this one, you'll have just one annotation scale to begin with. So you can either do it how I've been doing over here in properties, click over here and add 1 to 40, or if you highlight it and right click, add and delete scales. Either way, it all takes you to the same place. Now that I've got a C-Cove that's a 1 to 40 version, I'm going to set my scale to 1 to 40 here. So I see the 1 to 40, that little tiny one. Do you remember how when we did that little exercise last week, I showed you if you grab it by the grip, you can slide it up. Don't use the move command, just grab it by the grip. You can slide it up so that you can read C-Cove. Grab this one, move it up so that you can see 50 feet. That way when you come over here, I can see 50 feet in C-Cove, but they stay in their own place at that 1 to 100 version. You're going to come in here and insert your curve data table. You're going to come to the mortgage survey. You're going to have your north arrow pointing up on all of these. And you're just going to set mortgage survey should be 1 inch equals 20 feet. I think in the book, well, I don't know, maybe, yeah, I think in the book it still says 1 to 20. You need to put the 1 inch equals 20 feet. Even though it is 1 to 20 viewport scale, when I look down here, it says 1 to 20, but it's 1 inch equals 20 feet. So we're going to correct that in here. You've got some text that you need to put in here. I would prefer that you put your own name here, so don't call yourself John Doe. You've got the name your mama gave you, so whatever name you came into this world with, go ahead and put that one. So do you guys have questions for me? Ooh, one more thing I want to show you. When it comes time to publish, this is our first time to publish a multi-sheet TWIF. And so what I want to do is show you output. When it says right here, export current layout, change that to all layouts. And that way you won't get one DWIF of one page and then you have to go do another DWIF of the other page. Make it say all layouts, export DWIF. You can look in here for options and make sure that it says multi-sheet file. If that says single sheet file, it'll do all layouts, but it'll make each one of them into a single sheet. So we want to do all layouts in one DWIF that has multiple sheets in it. So that's good. And then you'll save it and it'll make a DWIF. Make sure that you open it. And if you do it through here, remember there's that option, open in viewer when done. That's opposed to typing in the word publish or going through the actual publish command. We'll talk about the publish command later this semester, but I like this output, the export to a DWIF. You just get a lot more options kind of right in your face. Anyway, that's it. Do you guys have questions for me? Okay. So it is 4:13. We're here until 5 o'clock today. We'll still work on this some on Monday. I don't think it'll take all day Monday though. So maybe halfway through Monday, we'll get started on the architectural project. I know, it's going fast.
It is going. I do have one question on this dimension of the house, where the dimension is missing.
Yep.
Why can't I just do C close? Like C and
Well, you
close?
want it to have all the right dimensions, though. Yeah. You want to make sure that your calculations come out right. You know, put in a real dimension there, and if you find that it doesn't close, then something was off somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just forced it to do C and it closed it off, you don't know that anything was actually. It's kind of a double checking yourself before you're done. That's a good question, though. All right, any other questions?